Guys, China and manufacturing numbers. The market is freaking out. The Brexit talk is not happening. Is not helping. Excuse me. China is way down on its manufacturing numbers, and it's starting to impact across global economies. Where's the end here?
Yeah, I mean it just shows how much, to me anyway, that it shows how much is reliant for these people, the policymakers, is reliant on China. Actually, I mean, this huge economy and possibly and is growing massively, but is growing slightly less. And they're all worried about that.
Yeah, and it's not just China. More specifically, it's cheap labour. So the processes of globalization. Back sort of 20 years ago, it was like, well, we can't stop globalization. Part of the argument again is about free movement, so it is linked to what's going on in the EU discussion. But we're kind of reaping the whirlwind, as Dennis put it, of an environment where cheap labour is suddenly not producing the economic growth that it once did. And then obviously the workforce back in Europe and over in America is going crazy because the middle and working classes are, they're bottoming out in terms of the amount of money that they're making. So, and the instability of the economic infrastructure in a sort of wider sense doesn't have the foundations to sustain itself in the same way. I mean, all of this stuff is kind of connected. So, I mean, the 2008 crash is going to look like a little molehill. I think at some point something major is going to happen.
Well, what distresses me is if you look at the number of manufacturing jobs that have been lost all across the UK to cheaper labor, and those that are there are at much less wages than they were before, that the pressure is on the worker, which begs the question, where are the trade unions when it comes to fighting for these things? I mean, pensions are being lost. We've got, just fecklessness throughout the entire process. And people are literally living in fear of losing a job, unsure where they would go to find another one.
I mean, the other thing is, though, that people are starting to consume less. And I read this article the other week that was talking about, I mean, the title was, "Have we reached peak stuff?" And there may be a kind of cultural shift happening alongside this, where people are realizing that acquiring material possessions is not the aspiration of life. And if that trend continues, where people are starting to think, well, do I need all of this stuff? Do I need the new car? Do I need more clothes? Do I need a bigger television? Is that the pathway to happiness? If people start to reject that, then, and then you factor in the Internet of Things, and, the idea that robotics are going to start taking, again, working class jobs away in the next 20 or 30 years, we're going to have to completely restructure capitalism. But I mean, again, that's a massive argument and a massive conversation to have.
It is, and it, with all these houses being built everywhere, it poses another interesting problem. Where are people going to find the jobs to pay for the homes to then move forward from that?